The heart to Hannah. I don't know if anybody else is like this, but you feel like you have to pee, like empty your bladder before doing anything. And my spicy ruffles. How are you guys? It's already July. Isn't that wild? How do you deal with the feeling of disrespect in being undermined? Work context. Oh man, I wish Jimmy was here to answer this because I don't really work with anybody except for myself. I do disrespect myself all the time. I think the closest answer I can give to this is, this doesn't happen a lot, but actually sometimes when somebody asks me what I do, if I'm meeting new people, you know, exchange pleasantries, do the chit chat, and then they'll say, oh, what do you do for a living? And then I'll say anything but influencer, because I feel like influencer has such a negative connotation, which I get it, but I'll say, oh, I post on social media, I make YouTube videos, I'll say things like that. And then sometimes, immediately right off the bat, I'll hear, oh, that's tough. And then they'll laugh, you know, because they're being sarcastic. I don't disagree with the sentiment. I don't know if I'm being defensive, but I don't disagree with the sentiment that being an influencer is easier than other jobs, because it is much easier than other jobs. I do think it's hard, and I think there are levels to being an influencer. I think I have it pretty easy. I think maybe some superstar influencers who have hella work to do probably have it much harder, but in respect, I think this career path is much easier than of somebody who works a 9-to-5 or works a service job, or you know what I'm saying. So it's not that I don't believe that that is not true. Wait.
It's not that I don't believe that the comment that's tough, that it's not fact. No, it's not that I don't believe that's not true. Wait. It's not that I don't believe.
Wait, what am I trying to say? I acknowledge the fact that I do believe that my job is easier than other jobs. Oh, but that doesn't mean that I'm okay with somebody kind of scoffing at me about it. It feels very disrespectful. It feels like they want me to know that they think that my job is dumb. And that is not okay, because I don't think this job is dumb. I think it's easier than other jobs, but I don't think it's like dumb or should be disrespected or undermined. I used to just like laugh it off and not say anything and just ha ha ha, like you're right, whatever. Actually, I still do that. I'm not a confrontational person. I still kind of laugh and then just walk away. I'm ha ha ha, end the conversation naturally and walk away. I really should work on that. I should probably try and stand up for myself more. I remember telling you guys I've been having dreams where I'm being put in situations where I need to stand up for myself. I need to talk about this more later, but anyways, yeah, I should probably stand up for myself more. But what I do now, which I didn't do before, is I don't let the disrespect, like I don't absorb it. I definitely learned to just think that is their opinion. I know it's not true, and I can just walk away from it. And, you know, in some ways, I think that's pretty healthy too. Views on situationships in dealing with somebody with an anxious attachment style. What's an anxious attachment style? Okay, I Googled it. This is the AI overview. An anxious attachment is an insecure attachment style characterized by a strong desire for closeness and intimacy in relationships, coupled with a fear of abandonment and tendency to seek constant reassurance. Individuals with anxious attachment often worry about the stability of the relationship and may become overly dependent on their partners for validation and security. That's me. Used to be me. That's the reason me and Jimmy would get into a lot of fights. I'm assuming this is asking views on situationships with a person who has an anxious attachment style. And I would say that since I think I have an anxious attachment style, I would not be in a situationship. I don't think I could handle being in a relationship where I wasn't really sure what was going on. Like with somebody that wanted to have different kinds of love and affection with, or maybe similar to me, like to the one that me and this person had with other people. I don't think I'd be able to handle it. I would constantly question whether this relationship would last or situationship would last compared to the other ones, like wondering if it was good enough. And yeah, I don't know. That would ruin me. I would not survive that. So I don't think someone should be in that position who has an anxious attachment personality. I mean, I guess if you want to do, what's it called, exposure therapy, and get yourself into situationships so that you can get used to it and fix your anxious attachment style is one way to do it. I don't know the validity of that method. I would not do it. That would drive me insane. I would be so terrible. Do you ever think if someone is ever meant to be single? Man, I don't know. Because on one hand, if you want to be single, then you're going to be single. But on the other hand, if you want to be in a relationship, but nobody is meeting what you need and want in your life to be a partner, then in that sense, it is just better off being single. Maybe in that sense, you're meant to be single because you're happier. I mean, if you're happier being single than having a partner that doesn't fulfill, like you can't find a partner that doesn't fulfill what you need. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not really I'm not a really super believer in fate and destiny. I think that they could be real, but I'm not a firm believer. So whether they're meant to be, I don't know, but could be possible. This is such a wishy-washy answer, but I guess a lot of it is choice. Like if you're trying to find a good partner and have met a lot of people that you don't think suit you or would be a good partner for you and the life that you want, and in that case, you would be single because you find being single better than being with this person or people that you've been seeing, then you're kind of choosing to be single, which is not bad. You're just choosing to be single. And in that case, are you really meant to be single? You're choosing what's better for you. And then if you just want to be single because you want to be single, then you're also choosing to be single. So in this sense, is it really meant to be single, or are you just choosing to be single for the betterment of you in your life? But then I think about a lot of people who really, really want a partner and they just can't find one. But in that case, again, it's not like you're meant to be single. You're just choosing not to be with these partners that don't suit you because it's better for you to be happy with yourself than... I think this kind of delved into a little bit more of a, do I believe in fate and destiny and stuff like that? But interesting. What's the kindest thing that someone has ever done for you? Most of these would be from Jimmy, because I think Jimmy loves me the most. I don't know, maybe my mom loves me the most. If I ever become a mom, maybe I'll know. But I bet my mom would say she loved me the most. But I feel like Jimmy loves me the most. Because I feel like my mom loves my sister the most. I mean, my brother the most. And I feel like my dad loves my sister the most. I'm a middle child. Does that explain anything? Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. What is the kindest thing that someone has ever done for you? The kindest thing. I think this really comes to mind. If you guys watch my engagement video, you know that my family was there for the engagement. And Jimmy flew my entire family from Texas to New York to be there for my engagement, booked all of their hotels and their flights, and got them to be there. And it was such a surprise. Like, I think I had told him that I would want my parents to be there, but he just flew out my brother, my sister, my dad, my mom, and that is not a cheap thing to fly to New York and stay in New York. Hotels in New York are really expensive. I was very touched and shocked that he remembered that I had wanted that. And I had also not seen my family for a couple years at that time because of COVID, and it was a very emotional like reunion. So I think that's the kindest thing. Another thing is I don't think my sister or brother ever went to New York as adults. I think me and my sister did when we were little with my dad, but as adults we had never been to New York, so it was kind of nice, I think, for me. I don't know how they feel about it. I'm sure they loved it, but for Jimmy to kind of fly them out there as adults, and then they could kind of see and look at New York as adults. I keep saying adults, but I thought that was really, really nice and kind. Like, I don't know a lot of people who would do that, and it made the day really special. He didn't really have to go that far. Like, the scavenger hunt was amazing on its own, and the fact that he did all of that and got me a ring and everything, like, I'll never forget it. It was a really, really, that was the kindest thing. Would you protect your friend who is cheating? No. Actually, can I tell you guys a story? Okay. So, I was talking to somebody and they were telling me how, this might get complicated. Let's call the person I'm talking to Savannah. And let's call Savannah's friend Sally. And then let's call Sally's husband Steve. Why they all start with S? Okay, so Savannah, Sally, Sally's husband, Steve. Sally cheated on Steve with, let's call him Roger. So Sally slept with Roger while Sally and Steve were together, but they weren't married at the time. And then later, Steve never found out that Sally and Roger slept together. So then, but then Sally and Steve got married. And then Samantha and Sally went to like a tarot card reader or whatever. And the tarot card reader kind of hinted at the fact that they knew that Sally had a big secret. But you know, it was crazy. Samantha already knew this secret, not because Sally told her, but because Samantha is also married. Samantha is married to Drew, and Drew is friends with Roger, and Roger told Drew that Roger had slept with Sally. And so Samantha knows that Sally slept with Roger, but Steve doesn't know. And when I was hearing this story from Samantha, I'm not really good friends with Samantha. This is just someone I see like on occasion. But anyways, when Samantha was telling me this story, I really wanted to ask, but then I knew this would be a very awkward situation. Oh, I have another story. I'll tell you after this. Okay, so Samantha was telling me this story, and I really wanted to ask her, you know, why didn't you tell Sally to tell Steve what had happened when you found out? I guess in her mind, I don't know when Samantha found out, but maybe Samantha found out recently and Sally and Steve are already married. But for me, I would probably tell Sally that I knew. I mean, at that point, like, I don't really know the timeline. I guess if like Sally and Roger had slept together 10 years ago, I would tell Sally, oh, I guess everything's so circumstantial. Because in my mind, I would have been like, Sally, you better tell Steve that you slept with Roger. But now I'm like, okay, if it was 10 years ago and Sally and Steve are already married and Sally and Roger don't even talk to each other anymore, would I make Sally tell Steve that she slept with Roger 10 years ago when they were boyfriend and girlfriend? I don't know. Oh my gosh, everything's so circumstantial. Everything is about the situation. Another story. I went on vacation. I'm going to be very vague about this because, whatever. Okay, I went on vacation and I went with like a group of friends, and then we met up with somebody who wasn't like really good friends with one of the people I was with, but they kind of knew each other. So we were like, whatever, let's like meet up. And so we all meet up, and the one, okay, I'm going to give everybody names again. Okay, so I'm there, and then I go with Pam, Rachel, and no, it has to be like this. I go with Pam, Ricky, okay, Pam, Rick, and Joe. Pam, Rick, and Joe, okay? Pam knew, I'm going to reuse the name, okay? So Pam knows Roger and on this vacation. So Pam is like, oh, should we meet up with Roger? Because Roger lives here and can show us around. So Roger shows us around, whatever. Roger's so nice, very accommodating, just a nice person, okay? So then Pam has to leave. So then it's just me, Rick, and Joe, and Roger. So me, Rick, Joe, and Roger all get dinner together. And we're just chatting, whatever. And then all of a sudden, Roger goes, oh, I'm actually, so sorry, context. Roger, when we were hanging out, showed us a picture of his wife and was talking about his wife and blah, blah, blah. Really sweet. Then we get dinner and Roger says that he is going to, coming to Korea. And I was like, oh, I live in Korea. You know, when are you coming? What are you coming for? And then he said he was coming to see his girlfriend. I legit was like, what? I was shocked. I was so confused. I literally looked at Roger and I just went, what? Rick and Joe already know this. Rick and Joe, who also just met Roger, apparently when I was like maybe off on my own or went to the bathroom or something, Rick and Joe and Roger had talked about this and they had been shook at that moment. But they knew that if they told me, that I would have been not able to hide my disdain and disgust for this man. So then I look at Rick and Joe, you know, hoping to find some camaraderie in this situation. Like, what did I just hear? Did you guys just hear that? And Rick and Joe look at me and they're like, kind of giving me this look like, don't make a scene in the restaurant. And I was like, I couldn't help myself. I just said, aren't you married? Oh my God, that reminded me of that Wolf of Wall Street scene. Aren't you married? Anyways, so I said, aren't you married? And then Roger goes, yes. So blatantly, yes. And I, again, shook. I was like, what do you mean, yes? I'm so confused. So then I look at Rick and Joe again, and Joe's like, just let it go. Like, we'll talk about this later. Just let it go. So I am just silent for the rest of the dinner. I don't really want to talk to him. Don't want to look at this guy. Later, I think I come to find out that I think this is the assumption. I didn't hear it from Roger's mouth. But the assumption is, from what Rick and Joe gathered, is the wife kind of already knows that Roger has a girlfriend. I don't know if this girlfriend knows Roger has a wife, but that was the story. I've never seen this person again, and I will never see this person again, but that was the weirdest and wildest way to hear a story like that. Anyways, would I protect my friend who was cheating? I think for the most part, no. I think under Sally's circumstances, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. 10 years ago, already married? I don't know. Because would it even matter now? They're married and happy. You know what? Actually, in this situation, if you are Sally, do not tell me. If you 10 years ago cheated on your boyfriend but are now happily married to that boyfriend, don't tell me what you did 10 years ago. I don't want to know. What if they're not happy? And then this would like get them to move on from each other. I'm really invested in this Sally, Steven, Roger thing, but I think for 90% of the time, I would not protect them because I think it's such a betrayal, and that is something that I would want to know, to have agency over my life. If I knew, I could decide whether I would want to be with someone who cheated on me or whether I could ever trust them again. Whereas not knowing, they could just think I got away with it and keep doing it over and over again, and I would never know. Whereas like if a good friend told me or somebody told me what happened, I feel I could make a decision for myself instead of having no control over the relationship or who I was with. I don't know if that makes sense. So yeah, I guess like for 95% of the time, I would not protect them. Sorry, that was a lot of stories, fake and real stories. Do you think living in Korea for the past few years has somehow changed your mindset? You know what's funny is when I first moved to Korea, I would have said that living here made me super confident because I only knew how to read Korean letters. I didn't know how to basically say anything outside of I'm hungry and goodbye and hello. And so learning Korean, I think, built up my confidence a lot because it really forced me to go out into the world and use what I learned and, you know, learn more and put it into practice. And also just making friends. As a girl in her late 20s, I think that was difficult, but I did it. And I think that also made me feel a lot more confident. But I don't feel as confident now. And I think it's because I'm at this weird point where I'm not really that good at Korean, but I'm not that bad at Korean. So I'm not fluent, but I can understand like 80% of what's going on. But I can't really articulate 100% of what I want to say, what I need to say. And when I go to places or meet people and I'm talking, at first it feels like they think that I know almost, I can get through this conversation is basically what they think. And then they realize I cannot get through this conversation, and then it becomes a little bit frustrating for them, which makes sense, and a little shameful for me. And so I think that I have come across those situations so much that has made me very insecure. Weirdly enough, I know everywhere in the world there are going to be people that randomly yell at you and are mean to you, but it happens a lot because I have dogs. And in Korea, I've had a lot of circumstances where people don't like dogs and they make it very known to me by yelling at me. Somebody actually kicked Kiki. And in those instances, I don't feel I have the language capacity to de-escalate the situation or stand up for myself. And I was telling you guys how I've been having a lot of dreams about putting myself in situations where I need to stand up for myself. Anyways, so I think I've been having a hard time here because of that, and it might just be like a phase because overall, sorry, this sounds really negative, but overall I do really love living here. Like, I think the life is really amazing here, and me and Jimmy are so lucky to be here and just so lucky to know the people that we do and to be where we are and everything. I think I'm just like going through a weird period where I'm not sure if I can really call this place my home. Navigating a relationship with your in-laws once you're married. This is hard because I'm not trying to be annoying, but I have a really good relationship with Jimmy's parents. I mean, they've known me since I was 17, so they've kind of seen me like through all my stages being a young adult, and I feel like because of that, it was just more natural for me to be close to them as kind of a daughter in their life. And because of that, also, I really do see them as like my second parents. And what also helps is that they're just really, really nice people. I'm so lucky that, I've been saying this a lot, but I'm so lucky that Jimmy's parents are really the kindest, most patient, understanding people. I mean, they raised this amazing man. So, but I've heard from like friends and stuff that it's a little harder for them to get close to their in-laws. They have a lot of disagreements, which is very natural because two different families grew up two totally different ways, maybe different lifestyles. Like, it's kind of hard to match up to another family. And I guess I feel very lucky that I don't feel it has been difficult in that way. I did feel when we first got married some pressure to be like a dutiful daughter-in-law, but they don't really ever put that pressure on me. I think it's a pressure that I put on myself, which is fine because I want to be good to them. But other than that, not really. I think I'm just really lucky, and I feel like this is a terrible answer to your question. One thing me and Jimmy have talked about actually is when we have an issue, for example, if Jimmy has an issue with my parents, I will go deal with that issue with my own parents, because there doesn't need to be this tension between him and them. Like, I want things to be good between them as much as possible. So if I bring up the issue as if it's my issue, it doesn't matter if I fight with them. I fought with them my whole life. Oh, did you guys hear that? I fought with them my whole life. So like, what's another fight gonna do if it came to that? And then also, it's just more comfortable for us. And I think maybe for a lot of people, if it were to be that way. Yeah, and you're not supposed to bring up the problem like, oh yeah, Jimmy doesn't like when you do this. Then you're just a snitch. You have to say that you don't like when they do that, you know, so that you like command it more, you know, and you don't put your significant other in a weird position. How do you deal with the feeling of being left behind in comparison to your peers, friends, and even your own potential? I think I used to feel like this a lot, but I don't really feel it anymore. I don't know if it's because I'm growing up, again, super lucky to have the life that I do and to be in the situation that I am in. When I used to feel it, it was because, and sometimes I do still feel it, but for like a general overall sentiment, I don't really have that anymore. And I think it's because, well, one, what I was feeling was when I first met all my friends, like, we were all just trying to figure stuff out at the very beginning, and we were just entry level to everything, right? And now they're all bosses to people and managing huge projects and being important pieces to a team or a company, you know? And I'm still here eating Ruffles and talking to a camera. So in a sense, I felt as if everybody was leveling up and I was just kind of doing the same thing. And in that sense, I felt left behind and a little bit unaccomplished. And I can admit it, I am not as popular, or my channel isn't as booming as it was before. And I'm okay with that now, but it used to really, really bother me, because when you do this influencer stuff, the way I do it, it feels as if you're selling yourself. And the less popular you get, it feels as though the less worthy you are, because everything is like tied to your personality or your looks or whatever. And so, and I don't know. So because of that combination of things, I did feel left behind. I think I am in a better place now because, again, I'm so lucky to be here in the situation that I'm in and everything. I feel content with the present, and I think that's a really good feeling. I also think it's hard because we have access to so many people's lives, not just the people around us, but because of social media, the internet, like, we just know too much about what everyone's doing. And there's always going to be somebody out there who's doing something that you want to do or you feel like you need to do. And in reality, that's just not going to be possible for you to be reaching billions of people's achievements. And so I think that just recognizing that you are doing your best and achieving what you want, and or maybe what you feel like you need to, and not comparing yourself so much to other people, because what is it? Comparison is the thief of joy. It really is. I think it's like fine to compare yourself sometimes because, I don't know, a little healthy competition, I think that's fine. But I think that there's just like too much of that because we have too much access to other people's lives. And so, yeah, I think just thinking about it like that, in terms of your own potential, if you know that you are doing your best, you should feel good about that. Potential is something that's like unlocked, right? So at the present time, you are doing your best. You are training, you are working, you are doing your best. And your potential will eventually get you where you want to go, or maybe take you somewhere where you didn't think you would go. So I think just stop comparing yourself to something that is not even unlocked yet, and then stop comparing yourself so much to just the world and everybody around you. You're doing your best, and I think you should just, of course, like, it's fun to strive and have goals and chase your dreams and stuff, but I think it's good to also feel connected to what is happening now, because now will not come back, you know? Like, I think that you should be happy with the now too, because even if the now is a struggle, like, you're gonna look back on that time and wish you had soaked that up a little bit more, because you're just never gonna get that time back. Anyways, sorry to get philosophical, but oh my gosh, these are so good. I have to stop eating them. But I hope you guys enjoyed this Heart to Hannah. Let me know if you want Jimmy to be a part of the next one. Anyways, I'm on chip. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.